Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second RC from 2021 CAT Slot 1. The genre is Society and Culture. iRC by iQuanta is a new initiative in which we'll be discussing all the past year CAT RCs. My name is Abhishek Pandey. I'm an author, speaker, mathematician by profession. I have scored 99.93 percentile in CAT, and I'm a VARC and quant faculty at iQuanta. Before starting the passage, I have marked some difficult words which would be very much helpful for increasing your vocab, at the same time understanding the passage. The first word is utopia. It's an imagined place or state of things in which everything is perfect. For example, Ram Rajya. So it is believed that in Ram Rajya, all the people were treated equally and everybody had equal rights. There was no difference between males, females, rich, poor, kings, etc. Second is dystopia. It is exactly opposite of utopia. It's an imagined place or society in which there is great suffering or injustice. For example, the kingdom of Kans, the devil king. Contempt. It's the feeling that a person or a thing is worthless. Restraint. It's a measure that keeps someone or something under control. Relentless. It's unceasingly intense. Repression. It is the action of subduing someone or something by force. Curtailment. It's the action of reducing or restricting something. Wicked. It's evil or morally wrong. You must be recalling that Wicked Sunny from the movie Mujhse Shaadi Karogi, Akshay Kumar's. It was a kind of humorous punchline, Wicked Sunny, evil or morally wrong. Mores, the characteristic customs and conventions of a society or community. It's a new word and it's an addition to your vocab list. Homogeneity, it's a quality or state of being all the same. For example, you must have heard about homogeneous mixtures, homogeneous oil. So it remains same throughout its volume. Insofar, it's to the extent that. So insofar is actually treated as the same word. It's in, then so, then far. So whatever in so far means, it's same as insofar. Assertion, it's a confident statement. Proposition, a statement that expresses a judgment. That's a proposition, essentially given by courts and judges. Ethos, it's the characteristic spirit of a culture or community as manifested in its attitude. That is the ethos. And from the ethos words comes ethics. Submersion, the action or state of submerging or being submerged. That is submersion. Consensual, it's relating to or involving consent. So when people are involved in some action with mutual consent, that is known as consensual. Perilous, it's full of danger or risk. So peril is a word which means danger, and perilous is nothing but the something which is dangerous or risky. Depraved, it's morally corrupt. It's not deprived. You should not be confused between deprived and depraved. Deprived is not having something, deprived of something, and depraved is morally corrupt. Vanity, excessive pride in one's own appearance or achievements. That is vanity. Emulation, an effort to surpass an achievement by imitation. Coercion, the practice of persuading someone to do something by using force or threats. So far, you must have understood that this passage is a lot about, it will talk about morality, ethics, and a lot of things around that. The diagrammatic representation of utopia and dystopia. So as you can see, there are mirror images of each, and dystopia is a bit dark. So it gives you an imaginative description, a figurative description of how they are contradictory to each other. Same building, when shown in light, it has greenery and everything. Everything looks so vivid, so cool, so nice to look at. But if you look at this, the dark part, it looks like sad, sullen, and kind of perilous. So utopia and dystopia, just to make you realize what the difference is. It's essentially the same thing, two sides of the same object. One more example to show you. This is the fly, this is the spider, and it's a famous quotation, the spider's web is fly's chaos. So what is utopia for a spider can be dystopia for a fly. It's not essentially the same thing, but it gives a proper analogy. Let us go to the passage now. It's from CAT 2021, slot 1. The genre is society and culture. So I have underlined the words which are difficult, which we have already discussed in the previous slides. We cannot travel outside our neighborhood without passports. We must wear the same plain clothes. We must exchange our houses every 10 years. We cannot avoid labor. We all go to bed at the same time. We have religious freedom, but we cannot deny that the soul dies with the body, since but for the fear of punishment, they would have nothing but contempt for the laws and customs of society. In Moore's time, for much of the population, given the plenty and security on offer, such restraints would not have seemed overly unreasonable. For modern readers, however, Utopia appears to rely upon relentless transparency, the repression of variety, and the curtailment of privacy. Utopia provides security, but at what price? In both its external and internal relations, indeed, it seems perilously dystopian. So the first passage introduces Utopia and also says it ends at that indeed it can be perilously dystopian. Utopian can be perilously dystopian. So contradictory in nature, but yet true. Second paragraph, such a conclusion might be fortified by examining selectively the tradition which follows more on these points. This often portrays societies where it would be almost impossible for man to be depraved or wicked. Right? So in utopian society, a man cannot be a criminal. It cannot be wicked or evil. This is achieved both through institutions and mores. Mores is the rituals of the society, which underpin the common life. The passions are regulated and inequalities of wealth and distinction are minimized. Needs, vanity, and emulation are restrained, often by prizing equality and holding riches in contempt. The desire for public power is curbed. Marriage and sexual intercourse are often controlled. In Tommaso Campanella's The City of the Sun, 1623, the first great literary utopia after Moore's, relations are forbidden to men before the age of 21 and women before 19. Communal child rearing is normal for Campanella. This commences at age 2. Greater simplicity of life, living according to nature, is often a result. The desire for simplicity and purity are closely related. People become more alike in appearance, opinion, and outlook than they often have been. Unity, order, and homogeneity thus prevail at the cost of individuality and diversity. This model, as J.C. Davis demonstrates, dominated early modern utopianism, and utopian homogeneity remains a familiar theme well into the 20th century. So it talks about people would be alike, but their individuality will be lost, which is quite true. Third paragraph, given these considerations, it is not unreasonable to take as our starting point here the hypothesis that utopia and dystopia evidently share more in common than is often supposed. So here the author makes a statement that utopia and dystopia, they are assumed to be contradictory, but they have a lot of things in common. Indeed, they might be twins, the progeny of the same parents. Insofar as this proves to be the case, my linkage of both here will be uncomfortably close for some readers. Yet we should not mistake this argument for the assertion that all utopias are or tend to produce dystopias. That's a very strong statement. So the author believes that utopia in some way would produce or would try to produce dystopia in future. Those who defend this proposition will find that their association here is not nearly close enough, for we have only to acknowledge the existence of thousands of successful intentional communities in which a cooperative ethos predominates and where harmony without coercion is the rule to set aside such an assertion. Here, the individual submersion in the group is consensual, though this concept is not unproblematic. It results not in enslavement but voluntary submission to group norms. Harmony is achieved without harming others. So this passage talks about what can be the challenges of a utopian society and how utopia can also be very much common to dystopia. I hope you have understood this passage with all the words that we have discussed and the summary that I have provided of all the paragraphs. Now, let us look at the questions. This looks like a very difficult passage. If you look at the question, I'll tell you how to get to the answers precisely. Here comes the first question. Following from the passage, which one of the following may be seen as a characteristic of a utopian society? First option is society without any laws to restrain one's individuality. Okay. Institutional surveillance of every individual to ensure his or her security and welfare. A society where public power is earned through merit rather than through privilege. The regulation of homogeneity through promoting competitive heterogeneity. All right. Utopia is all about having things equal, same, and everything. So if you look at the options closely, the first option talks about without any laws to restrain one's individuality. So here, individuality is actually lost, right? So first cannot be the correct answer. If you look at second statement, institutional surveillance of every individual to ensure his or her security and welfare. Of course, this would be there because they want to make everybody peaceful, harmonious, and to achieve that, they will have to be, there should be an institutional surveillance of every individual for security and welfare. Second looks like a correct option. Let us look at third. In third, it is written about public power, whereas in the passage is mentioned clearly that public power is something which is kind of condemned. Nobody talks about that. People are not given individual power, but they are treated equally. So of course, they cannot be having power. Otherwise, society would not be equal. So third statement goes against the notion of utopian society. Third cannot be correct. Fourth one, regulation of homogeneity through promoting competitive heterogeneity. Of course, competition would kill utopia because in utopia there should be no competition. People should be behaving, looking, thinking alike. So only second statement holds true to the characteristic of utopian society, and that is why we'll mark 2 and move ahead. Question 2. Which sequence of words below best captures the narrative of the passage? Option 1, curtailment of privacy, dystopia, utopia, intentional community. Second, relentless transparency, homogeneity, utopia, dystopia. Third, utopia, security, dystopia, coercion. Fourth, utopia, security, homogeneity, intentional community. So if you look at the third passage, if you look at the option first of all, so you can see that intentional community is used in first and fourth. If we somehow look at the passage and if we find intentional community there, that means first and fourth can be we have to choose between first and fourth, second and third can be directly eliminated. So in the last paragraph, it's been given, acknowledge the existence of thousands. Just a minute. Acknowledge the existence of thousands of successful intentional communities in which a cooperative ethos predominates. So intentional communities have been mentioned over here. That means the option should have intentional communities. That means second and third can be directly eliminated. Now we have to choose between first and fourth. Okay, curtailment of privacy, dystopia, utopia, intentional community. Intentional community is in first option. Fourth talks about utopia, security, homogeneity, intentional community. The first option ignores homogeneity, whereas homogeneity is very important characteristic of a utopian society. Things should be homogeneous, things should be equal everywhere. That is why we will choose fourth over first. Our correct answer is option fourth. This now becomes very easy. Third question. All of the following statements can be inferred from the passage except that first one says, it is possible to see utopias as dystopias with a change in perspective because one person's utopia could be seen as another's dystopia. I gave you the example of the spider and web also. The spider's web, like spider's utopia can be fly's dystopia. Another analogy is there. It says, analogy, not exactly same meaning. One man's terrorist is other man's revolutionary, right? So the first one, the first option has actually been talked about. It is in sync with the paragraph, but the question asks about what can be inferred except. So except is the keyword over here. That is why I made it all in bold, all in caps. So we have to choose the option which is not in sync with the paragraph. First option is of course in sync with paragraph, because it has been mentioned that utopias can be seen as dystopias. All the utopias somehow tend to become dystopias in future. That is what we have talked about in the passage. So first option goes in sync. It cannot be the correct answer. Second, utopian and dystopian societies are twins, the progeny of the same parents. Same parents. Okay. This has been somehow talked about, right? But is it the inference? It's directly mentioned in the paragraph. We cannot just infer it. Okay, let us read the third and fourth options first. Utopian societies exist in a long tradition of literature dealing with imaginary people practicing imaginary customs in imaginary worlds. Now, this is something which cannot be inferred because the author has talked about societies and he has not talked about any imaginary societies. He's talked about societies which have been mentioned in literature and the real examples. So this cannot be inferred that it is just imaginary. It must be real in some duration of time. Fourth, many conceptions of utopian societies emphasize the importance of social uniformity and cultural homogeneity. Of course, we can infer this. This is very much stated. It is given as a fact also in the passage, and moreover, the inference over here is that many conceptions of utopian societies emphasize is the keyword over here. Many conceptions of utopian societies in option 4 emphasize the importance. So emphasizing the importance can be inferred because utopian society is all about uniformity and cultural homogeneity, and emphasis something which is not directly mentioned in the paragraph, but it can be inferred. All right. So option B over here is something which is not inferred. It is directly kind of mentioned. It's progeny of the same parents. Moreover, there's one more thing here. They are mirror images of each other, right? It's been mentioned. So we can infer, we cannot infer exactly that these societies will be twins, because inference is something which is the derivation of unknown from the known. Option 2 is already known. We cannot derive something out of it. That is why option 2 is the correct one. Let us go to fourth question. All of the following arguments are made in the passage except that, first, in Moore's time, there was plenty and security, so people did not need restraints that could appear unreasonable. Second, the tradition of utopian literature has often shown societies in which it would be nearly impossible for anyone to be sinful or criminal. Okay, the question asks about except. So basically, we have to choose that option which is not in sync with the passage. Second is in sync with the passage, that is clearly mentioned over there, that people would not be, it will be nearly sinless society, so people cannot be sinful or criminal. So second one, of course, is in sync with the passage. Second is not the correct answer. We are yet to be sure about first. Third one, there have been thousands of communities where homogeneity and stability have been achieved through choice rather than by force. Of course, this is mentioned third paragraph. There are communities where there's homogeneity. There's, if you look at the third paragraph, thousands of successful intentional communities. So basically, this has been achieved by choice, not by force. Third one is in sync with the passage. Fourth, in early modern utopianism, the stability of utopian societies was seen to be achieved only with individuals surrendering their sense of self. Of course. So because there is homogeneity, because nobody has the powers are not institutionalized, everybody has the same rights. So the sense of self would not be there in any utopian society, and it has been talked about in the passage as well. In early societies, the concept of the sense of self, the kind of self, when we believe that we also are persons and we have some certain powers, certain duties, certain rights, So that is not there. It is believed to be the entire group which has the same kind of power, same kind of equality, same kind of knowledge, same kind of appearance, same kind of thought processes. So fourth one is also in sync with the passage. Now, this question, if you look at the first option, it can confuse you. But second, third, and fourth are directly mentioned. It has been talked about. So this question can be answered by the method of elimination. We can eliminate second, third, and fourth. That means the first one is the correct answer. So what we learn here? We have learned the art of solving an RC, and there are two main qualities required to solve an RC. First is having a good vocabulary, which can be achieved through regular practice, and that is what my aim is, to improve your vocabulary base by solving all the PYQs, apart from the classes that I take on the Facebook group. And second one is, which is very, very, very important, be it reading comprehension, be it CAT exam, or be it your life. To understand others' point of view, you have to put yourself in their shoes. So while solving this RC, I just put myself in the shoes of an individual in Utopia, and then I realized that what are my parts, what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses, and what all things can I feel around me. So once I felt that, I could answer the questions easily. So this is something which I want to tell you. This is your takeaway from this session. Just try to be there where the passage wants to take you. All right. So this is how you can achieve full score. After that, I have also used some diagrammatic figurative representations of utopia and dystopia to make you more clear, to increase your knowledge base, not just this RC. There's an example of a perfect utopia. This is Garden of Eden, an aesthetically pleasing place in which there was no knowing of good and evil. So this is something, the story which you already know. Until Eve ate the fruit, till then it was a utopian society. Look at this, look at the picture. All the animals, be it the carnivores, be it the herbivores, be it the omnivores, including humans, plants, flowers, and everything. There's ostrich, there's kangaroo, there's horse, sheep, lion, dog, roosters. So all of them are living harmoniously. This was a perfect example of a utopian society. Nobody had more powers than the others. This is an example from Hindu mythology, the Ram Rajya. It's a perfect example of utopian society. Rama, the king Ram, he believed that all the people are equal and all people should be having equal rights. And that is one of the reasons why he asked his wife to go for the Agni Pariksha. That is another thing, we can discuss it sometime later. But that was required to establish the utopia that Lord Ram wanted to have. Shangri-La, it's a valley in James Hilton's Lost Horizon. That was a novel. Later it was made into a movie. Mystical, harmonious valley was there, the kingdom of Shangri-La. So this is one of the examples. You should watch this movie. It's a great movie. Heaven, the perfect example. A religious, supernatural place where God, angels, and human souls live in harmony. Just look at this beautiful illustration of heaven. So this is what heaven looks like from an artist's point of view. Now, one example of dystopia, and a lot of you have watched that movie. It is one of the most favorite movies on this planet, and that is Matrix. So Matrix is all about a dystopian backdrop. The movie Matrix is set up in dystopia where the humans have been taken over by machines. So that is the perfect example of dystopia, and the people at Zion, the people who are remaining in Matrix, they want to create a utopian society, but that is not happening because of unequal power distribution between machines and humans and a lot of other variables. So this is where I'll like to end this session. Hope you enjoyed this. Tell me what all things you learned, and that is how we all can improve together. Thank you.